This popcorn is artisan, right?
Hey everybody, my name is Joe Baker. I'm currently an instructor at the Cordon Bleu Dallas. I'm here today to talk to you about truffles. It's an impeccable chocolate treat that'll satisfy anybody's cravings. Alright guys, so the recipe for truffles, crazy simple. It is equal parts by weight, good quality chocolate, and heavy cream. That's it. If you want to add anything extra to it, like seasoning or vanilla beans, that needs to go into your cream. If you want to add anything like alcohol or anything else, it's best to add it afterwards because it will change the way the chocolate reacts. So it's equal parts. Today I'm just going to do 100 grams and 100 grams. Right? Maybe one away. Okay, what we need to do is we need to bring this to a boil, or at least a very hard scald. Okay, it's very important that it's hot. That way it can start breaking down the chocolate for us, and then it will melt it all together so we can emulsify it. In the culinary world, or in the savory world, they have mayonnaise as their perfect emulsification. For pastry chefs, it's actually ganache. Okay, ganache is what we're making today. It's the perfect emulsification of heavy cream and good quality chocolate. It's important that you have good quality chocolate from a reputable supplier. My favorite is Cocoa Berry. You cannot use Hershey's or Nestle's or anything like that. It'll make a ganache, just not a very good ganache for truffles. It's too oily. So now that our cream's boiling, we have to come over here and pour it slowly over our chocolate because we really want to avoid splashing it. Okay? We're gonna shake this to settle the chocolate into the liquid. Okay, and then we let it do its magic for about a minute. Right now the heat's equalizing, it's breaking down all those internal fats of the chocolate. We wanna let it sit in there, kind of simmer together, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in with our whisk, and we're just gonna gently start whisking it all together. Okay, it's a slow process. We need to let it do its thing. If for some reason it starts separating into giant chunks of chocolate, it's because it's too hot. Keep whisking it, and as it gets colder, it will bring itself right back together. Okay, we're trying not to add any air to this, so it's just a gentle stirring motion just to mix the two together. Scrape the edges down, make sure it's all one unit, and then what we need to do is chill it down completely so that we can scoop it out or cut it and form it into our truffles. Alright guys, so this is firmed up really nice. Okay, we're gonna have kind of a little loaf of ganache here, right? You see it gets pretty firm. Because it's refrigerated, it's gonna get a little cloudy. It's not ideal for tarts, but for truffles, it's perfect, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm wearing gloves now because obviously we're gonna start shaping and it's gonna melt into my hands. This is a nice little insulation, and quite frankly, I don't wanna have chocolate hands in my kitchen, okay? I'm gonna cut this into the desired size that I need, and it's gonna be a little tricky. The ganache is gonna wanna stick to your knife. The best way to work around it, have a good clean knife, make sure it's hot and dry, it'll cut right through it. Alright, so once we get the shapes that we want, okay, what we need to do is take this, and the truffle is called that because it resembles the truffles that you find out in the fields, little mushrooms that are underground. So we just roll them by hand until they resemble a loose round, okay? This is especially where you can start telling who's actually good at rolling things, and you can start making them a little more custom, right? And as you see, they just melt really fast in your hand. Okay, so the gloves are a great idea for insulation. Alright, so we've got our truffles rolled. What we need to do next is get our chocolate ready for coating. Because if we leave that as is, it's going to get a weird skin on it, and it's not going to have that quintessential crunch that we want from crystallized chocolate on the outside. So I have the same good quality chocolate. It has to be at least couverture grade, which is 32% cocoa butter. Right? When you go to the store, just ask for couverture, they'll be able to help you. What we're going to do is we're going to start melting it right here in the microwave, 30 seconds at a time. So even after 30 seconds, it might not look like anything's happened. We need to stir the chocolate around. If it stays in one spot, it's gonna burn in the microwave. It smells terrible, and this chocolate is completely wasted at that point. So give it a quick, even stir, back in the microwave for 30 seconds. Alright, so after the second 30 seconds, we're up to a minute total, it's starting to stick. Now we need to get in there and stir it. That way we can start evening it out. Even though it's a little melty, it's not quite there yet. What we're trying to do is melt the chocolate all the way so we can get the ideal crystals to form. That way it stays shiny and it gives a firm snap to us. So give it a good stir, back in the microwave for 30 more seconds. Alright, so now we're at 1.5 minutes total. We should be melted more than enough for what I have here. You see as we stir it around, okay, it's all gonna start melting nice and even. Make sure to get everything off the sides of the bowl. Stir it all together. We need to make sure this is melted completely. What we're trying to do by stirring it is force the crystals to break and bond a certain way. That way we get the most ideal crystal rising to the top and forming a clean structure across the entire membrane. Once it's melted, we will add cold chocolate. That'll start bringing the temperature down, and this chocolate has the good crystal that we want the melted chocolate to really bond to. So we melt that in, make sure to keep stirring, and as it becomes more and more liquid, it'll cool down where we can actually use it. The temperature we're looking for is in the mid 80s or even the low 90s. So once we've added about 1/3 of its total weight back in unmelted chocolate and melted it in, it should cool down enough and it should start to crystallize the way we want it to. But to test that, we're going to take a thin amount and we're going to spread it on this marble, or you could alternately do it on tin foil. What we need to do is let it rest, and hopefully it'll turn into a very thin matte finish that's firm, and clearly it's hard chocolate again.
Yes.
Alright, so once it has a good matte finish and we can touch it and it doesn't stick, right, we know it's set. To prove it, we can come through, and this is how we make fancy chocolate shavings in the everyday pastry kitchen. Plus, it's a very easy way to clean off your surface. If you don't want it, back in the bowl. All it will do is melt back into the rest of the chocolate, and it becomes usable right away. Okay, so now that we clearly have our crystallized chocolate, comes the really important reason we have these gloves on. We're gonna roll these by hand in the tempered chocolate so we get a very, very thin candy shell on here. So we take some of this chocolate, put it on your hands, grab a truffle, a little bit more chocolate, and then you just roll it around to give it a nice thin coat. Okay, once the entire thing's coated, you set it aside, grab the next one, keep on going. Once our first coat has crystallized and we can touch it and it doesn't leave a mark, we put one more very thin coat on there. It's the exact same technique as before. A little bit of chocolate in the hand, get our truffle, and we just roll it again. Try and get a nice even coat. The longer you roll, the more likely you are to melt all the chocolate together, so be sure to work fast and clean. When you have a good thin layer, set it down, move on to the next one. So once we have the 2 coats, now we go with the quintessential finish, a little bit of cocoa powder. We just drop it right in there, roll it around to coat it, right? Pick it up, dust it off in our hands because it is very bitter. That's all she wrote. Obviously you can put a series of finishes on this, but this is a classic truffle, perfect for any occasion.